Okay, we're going to begin our inspection by going puff, puff, puff with the smoker at the front door, which is sort of a way of knocking and saying to the bees, we're coming in, here we are. Take off the top with no trouble at all. We could experiment. I'm going to do a queen castle with the other hive with that queen cell that we saw. So with this hive we could also make a split for a queen castle. We just won't have, we'd have to do it with eggs. We won't have the advantage of a queen cell, assuming that queen cell is still there and eager for us to use it. Okay, so this hive has, let me see if I can show you, has this cell, this frame, and this frame have bright white new comb with probably honey in it, and this one has new wax being drawn, and the rest of these are not being used. So that would argue for our not needing to give them a new box, even though the nectar flow is just now starting. So I'm going to cover this one up with a hive drape. And so now we've answered our question, but because I'm interested in doing a queen castle, and I only need 3 frames to do that, I'm kind of interested in going down in this one enough to see if we can find frames to use for that. This is going to be heavy. Not too heavy, because it's only 3 frames that have honey being drawn in them. In this frame, I can see a bee with pollen on her legs, so it makes me think that we might have a cell in here a frame in here that has brood on it. We're going to look in and see what we can find. And perhaps we'll find that in fact they do have some brood in this box. Although maybe the little bee that came up here with the honey, with the pollen on her knees was just taking a little tour of the hive before she gave up her load. Or she could have had both both nectar and pollen, and be delivering the pollen further down in the hive and the nectar up here. So when we pull this up, we can see that this is a frame that's being used entirely, at least on this side, for nectar. Entirely for nectar. And we look at the other side. Yep, your side too. Entirely for nectar. So we're going to put this one on the frame rack. It also wouldn't be good for a queen castle, because for the queen castle you need a frame that has both pollen and honey. So all of this is going to be nectar. Let's just make sure the next one is. It isn't. It has brood on it. What do I know about this hive? This frame is full of brood. Okay, let me show it to you. Is it full of brood on that side? It is. So you can see brood, and that's like medium biscuit, so it's been covered for about a week on both sides. There's a big drone right here. That's a drone. And we'll see if there are any eggs in here that could turn into a queen for our queen castle. But over here on the side, they're just storing honey. I'm not seeing any eggs. Isn't that something? Now, because there are not any eggs on here, I'm pretty sure the queen is not going to be on this frame. It's nice they have that brood. We also don't know, this hive may have swarmed. And if it has, we're not going to find any eggs. We might find young larvae, but we're not going to find any eggs. We're going to look at the next frame too, because it looks like it has some brood in it. also. This frame says 2007 on the top of it. That's how old some of my bee equipment is. So the brood on this frame is drone brood on both sides. Drone brood there, drone brood there. And I don't see any eggs. So we're gonna go, well, there's more brood on the next frame, so we're gonna just keep looking at this box because it's delivering us all these surprises. I don't know if you all can hear them. They're making loud noises about the fact that I'm here. It's not loud like a queen roar, which is what they do when they're queenless. They make a sound that sounds like a roar when you open the hive. This one doesn't sound that way, but they're saying, intruder. Oh, here's a queen cell. That's exciting. There's a queen cell. I'm gonna see if I can make sure you can see it. Big old fat queen cell they're taking good care of. Let me see if this looks like one we could move, potentially. So if it has a queen cell on it already, it would be a good one to take over there. So what I want to make sure is that the queen isn't on this frame. The other thing we have to make sure of is that this is not the only frame in the hive with a queen cell on it. Because if we take this to another hive and it has their queen on it, their only queen cell on it, highly unlikely, but we want to make sure. So we need to see another queen cell. So I'm just looking to make sure the queen herself is not on this frame, which you have to be very careful of if you're making a split, which is in essence what we're doing when we're putting bees in the queen castle. But putting a queen cell in is a perfect thing to do because you don't have to wait for them to make a queen and you'll have a new queen sooner. And this queen cell's about as old as the brood in here. There are also some eggs on this frame, which means they haven't swarmed yet. They usually swarm the week the queen cells are going to hatch, which would be next week. So I'm going to go put this one, which I don't see the queen on, in our queen castle. I'm going to show you that process in just a second. But I brought back an empty frame, which we'll put in place of the one I took. So we're going to get out of this box because they don't seem to have any pollen in this box, which is the other thing we need for the queen castle. So we're going to move this over and move this over and move this over, and then we can put our frame in that has been sitting out here on the frame rack, because this is where it goes in the second position. Oh, hooray, hooray, hooray. Okay, so now we're going to take this box off and see if we can find a frame with pollen and honey on it to add to our queen castle. Before I go any further, I want to introduce you to the queen castle. So here we go over to the queen castle. So this is the queen castle. It doesn't have a top on it right now, but it will have a top on it when the day is over. I'm not going to open the section that I put the queen cell in, but I'm going to show you. It's just a 3-frame nuc. These right here are 3 empty frames, and we'll put 3 frames in there. 1 frame with the queen cell on it if we can get one, and then 1 frame with pollen and honey on it, and another frame like that also if we can find it. What would be best is if we can find brood and pollen and honey. This is the entrance for this side of the queen cell, for the queen castle. This is the entrance for the second section of the queen castle. And this is the entrance for the third section of the queen castle. So they each have their own front door and they won't be bumping into each other. All right, so now we're going to move this box and go look for honey, for pollen and honey. So we could conceivably be raising 3 nucs in that queen castle. Now this box is almost completely empty, which is really bizarre. I think when I take it off, I'm going to put it on the top of the hive. It's not empty though. It feels heavy, like it's got honey in it. And this is the box we moved the crooked comb into, which we're not going to. So we're going to look at the frames in this one and see if we can understand why it's so heavy. Some joined comb, but I think it's just in a little section, and I'm going to be able to take, we're going to take out the 3rd frame instead of the 2nd. Huh, nothing on there. I see why. This is a solid frame of honey. I'm not going to get it through here, go through here, because it's not very interesting. It won't be interesting for you all. So it's really heavy. It's the one that's all joined together. And so we're going to look at this one and see if we can find a frame of pollen and honey to take to the split we just made, the queen castle split. So I should be talking to you all while I'm doing this. Let's see, what should we talk about? What do I expect to see on this frame? I don't know. I remember that what we found on most of the frames in these 2 boxes was honey, which we thought was bizarre. Again, this is a frame of honey. We don't really want to take honey to those bees over there. We want to take honey and pollen, and this is all honey. Also all honey. These are two very solidly together frames, all honey though. This is a box full of honey. So maybe we have to go back up and look at some of those frames in the top box, just the top two boxes, to see if, see, I took the third frame out, to see if, no I didn't. We'll have to go back to the, I always take the second frame out, but I thought for some reason I had done it differently with this one, but I haven't. So I'll put it back together. Put this one back in. So we're going to just look up in that box where we took the queen cell. Except that if that's their only queen cell, I just don't know what to do. I don't know if that's a bad idea or not. Maybe we should bring it back. A lot of noise going on at Piedmont Park right now. I don't know if y'all can hear it. All right. So having moved that queen cell over there, we have to do one of two things. We have to find some more eggs to make sure this hive can make a queen if we took their only replacement, although there were eggs on that frame, which means the queen is in here and laying. But the question is, should we have taken that or not? I always feel so much doubt about stuff like this. It's part of why I'm not very good at splits, because I get so unconfident about the whole thing and worried that I just messed up the whole beehive, which let's hope I didn't. I just need some pollen, is what I need. Pollen and honey. All right, this is the one where we took the queen cell. And they're having a little bit of a fit in here. That is why we saw the bee with the pollen. So I'm going to look at some of these other cells and see what I think. And look at a frame and see. I don't want to take all of their new population, which is what this might represent. There's no pollen on this frame, 0. All right, I didn't look at this very last frame over here, so we're going to look at it. At worst, we can take some pollen from the other hive. See, this has a little bit of pollen in it. See, there's a little bit of pollen up there at the top. There are also eggs on this frame right in here. I cannot see what you can see. Let's see. There are eggs right in here. And a little bit of pollen. Oh my God, I think I see the queen. She disappeared if I did. Yep, there she is. There's the queen right there. There's her tail. Right there is the queen, right there. Well, at least we're not leaving them queenless. But what we are doing is not taking pollen for our little split we're making. So I want to put that back in because we know it has the queen on it. And I want to look at the very last frame and see if perhaps, just perhaps, it has pollen on it. I'm going to take out this frame that we put in and move all of these over so that I have more working room, and look at this last frame to see if it has pollen. That queen, we saw her last time too. All right, this frame has some pollen on it, so this one would be a good one to take. So let's just make sure the queen didn't come over here, since this was right next to the frame she was on. And if she didn't, we're going to take this frame over to our little hive. Because it's got honey and pollen. And I do not see our majestic queen, but I do see honey and pollen. So I'm taking that to the Queen Hotel. All right, that's honey joined together. I hate it when they do that. Let's take out this one. Let's take out this one first. I never take out the first frame, but this frame is not being used, and so it's going to give me more wiggle room to take out the first frame instead of the second one, which is joined to the third one. I'm going to take out this one. You can see it's not being used. I'm just going to lay it down over here and move these around a little bit. All right. This one's all honey all the time. Honey is what they should be using the top box for. So I don't expect to find anything. Oh, that one's heavy and all honey. Wow. Great honey frame. That one weighs at least 5 pounds. And this one's also honey and nectar. Beautiful capped honey and some nectar. And we'll just put this frame in between these two. It'll help discourage the cross comb or make it worse. And put this frame back on the hive. I mean, this box back on the hive. I keep wanting to call boxes frames and frames boxes when I'm doing this because my mind is not connected to what's coming out of my mouth. I'm always thinking about the next step ahead. Now first, let's watch the front of the hive and see if we see any bees. There are lots of bees coming in with pollen on their legs. It's a very busy hive. It's busier than the other hive, which probably means this hive has found a source of nectar, which I think the tulip poplar is blooming today. So I'm going to go puff puff at the front of the hive to say I am here. Uh-oh. Okay. A lot of bees all around here. Bees on the top cover. Bees everywhere. I'll take off the top cover. A lot of big old drones. Waiting to go die and fall in love with the queen. So this hive has, on this new box, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames used and 2 unused, and 2.5 unused. So we may give them a new box because I'm gonna be gone for spring break and we want them to keep having space to fill. And this box, let's see what its story is. It has 1, 2 not used on this side. That one's being used. I don't know. I think for good measure we're going to leave this hive with another box. Yeah. But meanwhile, these are honey, and we're not going to look at this because we're trying to do our queen castle. And to accomplish that, what we have to do is get to that box that has the queen cell in it. It also wasn't this box, it's the next box down. So we're going to take this one off also. Okay. This is our box with the queen cells. If I'm remembering right from our last visit, which I think I am, but who knows till I get there. So, we're going straight for it. So I'm going to open the top of the queen castle. So I opened it and I took out 2 frames in preparation for our move-in bees. So let's see. 1, 2, third frame over is where I think it was. So we'll take out the second frame. And then the third one. Oh boy, that's a mess. There's wax moth debris from before in that space. All right, let's see what's going on here. I'll pull it up very slowly, which I didn't do. And see if this is the one with the queen cell, which I don't think it is. And in fact, it is not. So we're going to hang it on the side of the hive. Today I'm planning not to fall down the hill, I want to tell everybody. That is not my goal today. There it is. There's our queen cell. Now we got to make sure the queen isn't on here, but let me come show you the queen cell. There's the queen cell right there. Right there. And there's another one over here. So there are two on this frame. So what we want to see is there any pollen? This is the one we saw. Oh, sorry girls. All right, let's see if there's any pollen in this. I am seeing a little bit of pollen, but not a lot. So what I want to make sure is that the queen isn't on this frame. So I'm going to stand here and I'll cut this out of the tape, but I got to look really sure, make sure the queen isn't on here. Okay, I do not see the queen anywhere on this frame, on either side. So I'm going to take this one to the queen castle. It has 2.5 good queen cells. I put an empty frame in its place. And I believe this is the one that I fell down the hill because of. So we're going to pull it out and see if it has pollen on it. Has some worker brood that's due to hatch any day now. Let's see what's in this. It's really hard at this time of day to see things like eggs, but I want you to see the frame. This is this frame. It doesn't have queen cells on it, not on this side and not on that side, but it does have lots of dark biscuit worker brood, which means that they're going to hatch any day, and it has good pollen. This is the perfect frame to put in the queen castle. So I'm going to stand here again and look and see if the queen is on it. I doubt it. She's usually on a frame where eggs are being laid, and this one is not that frame. Some old drones on here. There is one queen cell on the bottom of this frame. Do y'all see it sticking up? There are bees crawling on it. It's not a great queen cell, but it is a queen cell. Okay, here we go. I'm taking it to the queen castle. Now we're going to rearrange the furniture a little bit and change this around. Let me make sure you can see. We're going to rearrange the furniture a little bit and move some things. So right now we have an empty frame right here. So I'm going to pull a full frame next to it in the checkerboarding sense. This should be the frame that has like 5 queen cells on it. We'll look at it to be sure. No, it's the next one. Put that there. And this one here. We're still short a frame. How'd that happen? Oh, there's one out on the, yeah. All right, this is the one with all the queen cells. So look at all of these queen cells. Tons of them, all up there at the top, all right in here. I'll try to get the bees off of them, but there they are. Lots of queen cells. This is how this hive is going to make sure it keeps living. And we are going to look for one more frame with pollen on it to take to that little 3-frame nuke we're making over there. This one has pollen but no honey. We ought to look for one with pollen and honey. And there's another queen cell. They are just so ready to swarm this hive. Or maybe they've already swarmed, but that one looks like a queen cell that isn't quite finished. Okay, so I'm going to put this frame right in here. This one also has a lot of pollen on it, though. No, it doesn't. Okay. We're putting it not in the right place. We're reorganizing their house a little bit. but they will forgive me for it because I gave them such a nice big house to live in. So let's hope they forgive me for it anyway. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, is really in there because of the wax moths, and put this one and slide it. All right, so I'm gonna look over here and see, I'm gonna fall down the hill again. I swear to goodness, I don't know what we're gonna do about this hive location. Linda falls down the hill at every inspection. Let me my new thing. How's she gonna fall this week? She gonna fall backwards, frontwards, sideways, which way? Barry Brosey said not to put a frame with a lot of honey on it because the hives will get robbed, but hives are not getting robbed at this time of year, so I am not going to worry about that. It also it also attracts hive beetles to put a frame with honey, but I don't want these bees to starve, and there are a lot of bees I just put into that box. So let me make sure the queen isn't on this one. Okay, there's that. And this hive has 2 empty frames here at the edge, so I'm going to take one of them and move it over and try to sort of checkerboard a little bit. So I'm going to move this frame that's completely empty. This one has 2 teardrops of wax. This one is completely full. So I'll move it over and move this one over. And then I'm going to put an empty frame right here so the hive has more balance, and maybe that'll help them build it more. And then here comes our last box. There's that. We'll put the top on, and then we have to put a top on the queen castle. So there's that. And so now I have to strap it back up and put the rock back on it. Okay, there, that hive is done. And now we just have to put the top on the queen castle. So I'm very lucky because I use all medium frames, and Brushy Mountain, while it was still in existence, made queen castles for medium. So this is a medium box, but it's the size of a 10 frame box. So I'm putting one of my very old 10 frame tops on it, but the rain will clean it off. Now I'm a little worried about this box sitting here, and so I'm going to strap it to the cinder blocks. So we're at the top of our hive, and first what we're going to do is watch to see if we see any bees coming in with pollen on their legs. There went one. My daughter thinks this hive swarmed because it looks like there are less bees. And bees coming in with pollen doesn't necessarily mean that there's a queen, but it's a pretty good sign that there are at least babies to take care of. And I've seen now 3 since we started filming, bees coming in with pollen on their legs. I'm going to let you look for a few minutes while I put my jacket on. This tends to be a mean hive, so I'm going to really suit up. Much less bees than we saw the other day. So when I open the top, there are much less bees than I saw the other day. But meanwhile, I'm going to light my smoker up here. So you'll remember that we start our lighting of the smoker using a little ball of pine straw. And I'll put it into the smoker and light it. It's a little bit easier to light it up here because this is at my daughter's house on that hill where the wind is blowing like crazy. It's much harder. We go puff, puff, puff. We put some more down in there. Then we go puff, puff. We put some more down in there. We go puff, puff. And that's almost all we have because I've already been to the community garden. I may start with this part, but I actually started the inspection there. So I've used up almost all my smoker fuel. So I'm going to close this up if I can. Here we go. And it is ready to go. The bees, we're here. Hello. What I think might have happened is that moving the hive the way I did and filling out the frames made it so that the bees couldn't get out of this top, even though they've been able to in the past. See how many are dead here? I think they got trapped under the cover and weren't able to get out because they couldn't go under the frames, which they've been able to do in the past, so that we don't have bees wandering around in here this time like they did then. So maybe that will quit now. So this is the follower board. I talked about this the last time I looked at this hive and didn't show you all what the follower board is. It's a solid piece of wood that goes at the end of the hive. So it's a solid piece of wood, and it makes the end of the hive box. And the hive box could go all the way to the very end, but the solid piece of wood sets it up to have an end. And this is this was already there last time. It has nothing on it. We're going to just look and see what they're doing with their hive. And we're starting at what's called the back of the hive. The front of the hive is up there where the bees are coming in. Now, it does mean I'm going to step in front of you. So this is honey wax that they've drawn, but they're not using yet. They've put a little bit of honey. That's honey right there. That's honey right there. But they're not. The nature flow just barely starting. I saw tulip poplar blooms on the ground today, but this is the first I've seen. One thing you have to be careful about with the top bar hive is sometimes they have attached the wax on the frame to the side of the hive. Look how pretty this is. It's 3 little teardrops of wax, and that's frequently how they draw wax. See, they're just barely getting started. They've just got 1 teardrop on this one. I think we had to get kind of to the middle of the hive before we saw any brood. And what we want to look for today is to see if they're queen cells, because I do think there are less bees and that these bees have probably swarmed. And you can see here, this is another honey frame. They're getting prepared to put honey on all these frames here at the end, but they haven't put a lot there yet. Now what this instrument is for is this is to help you unattach wax that is on the side of the hive that has hooked to the side of the wood of the box. And I have to be very careful about that, because if you do that, you break the whole entire comb off, and it's just a tragedy. Now this one also doesn't appear to be attached to the side of the box, but we have to be sure every time. Again, they're storing pollen in this frame. That's what the dark stuff is. Let me put it up here. I'll bring you in when I see something for you to see. But right now, this is just wax. It's a lot of just wax. I feel like we kept seeing more. I don't know what's going on in this hive. We'll see as we go. And here's a frame where everything on it is gone. It doesn't look like they raised brood, but maybe they did raise brood on that frame. This is really interesting because there are bees for sure in this hive, but I hope we see some brood. Wow, every frame we're seeing is just empty, which is not what was true the last time we were here. And I don't know what has happened. Every frame empty. So I don't know if the brood all hatched out and I mean, there is nothing in this hive. Again, nothing in this hive. This is really bizarre, but obviously they're bees. And tons of small hive beetles. This is just not looking good. This looks like this is a hive that's queenless, but we did see, it sure does look like a hive that's queenless though. So what are we going to do about that? This is a hive with no new brood. Do you think I killed the queen the last time I was in here? I can't imagine that I did, or that they swarmed. Now this one's heavy and has honey and brood. It has some, but what it has is, drone brood, which is what this is. This is drone brood. So it has drone brood, but that's all it has. So this is starting to look more and more like a queenless hive.